entire family of 11 dead in a single night, and the lone survivor is a dog, and there's no suspects. Now, this sounds such a perfect premise for a whodunit sort of a film, you know, a great idea, and any of the OTT platforms would jump onto this opportunity to make a film out of it. But here, this is not the work of fiction. It is actually a real life incident, and that's what makes
Yeah.
it worthy of a documentary. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to yet another podcast on Cinema Hall. And today it's the first time we are going to discuss a documentary, a three-part docu-series on Netflix, which has just been released very recently. And everyone is talking about it as much as everyone was talking about this incident back in 2018 when it completely shook the whole nation. We are talking about House of Secrets, the Burari Deaths, and so Netflix has come up with this, out of the blue, because for me at least, because I didn't know that they were making a series on this particular incident, and when the trailer dropped, I was completely, taken aback, and especially after coming to know that it has A.R. Rahman's background score as well. So, because for A.R. Rahman also to accept a project, so it must have some sort of substance. So that also got me. That was another reason why I was really interested in watching this. And so, Farad, I believe that unlike me, you watched it in the daytime, not the nighttime, which
Glad.
yeah, which is not probably the right decision. So, guys, if you have not seen it yet, don't watch it at night before sleeping. Otherwise, you won't get sleep for that night. So Farad, first of all, did you know about this incident beforehand? Were you aware of it in 2018?
Yeah, so before that, so I have again written a review of the Burari Deaths on my site, Popcorn Reviews. Keshav, you can, as usual, leave the link in the description. And the Burari Deaths, I have a faint memory of the news that had occurred. Probably it wasn't as effective, probably as probably say an Arushi Talwar murder case. That was for me like I was into it with the news channels and everyone. But the Buradi deaths, I mean, it wasn't. It was. I was aware of this incident, but probably not as involved then in 2018. When I started, it began like a normal investigative thriller. I mean, the setup was such, the mysterious deaths that were there. It was disturbing and it was a little weird as to what exactly happened. First episode seemed like it was like a normal investigative one that we usually see, in certain documentaries. Even there was a documentary on Arishi Talwar murder case, which had a similar premise. Okay. But then when you got to the second and the third act in the documentary, my God, it started with like horror. I mean, there were so many horror movies that I have seen, and I wouldn't get scared at all. And this actually, uh, gave me goosebumps. The way the letters were narrated in that voice that was there in that second. That was creepy. The good thing that they did was they touched upon the mental health issues, which is a reality in our generation as well. uh, and uh, and there's a term that nowadays is a little loosely used, called depression, but it is a fact. uh, and glad it was touched upon in a way that would actually reflect on the audience, that what could actually happen to a person who is in fact depressed, or who he might seem happy. He might, they just celebrated, I think, their daughter's engagement some few couple of weeks back, but still he was still depressed. I mean, so there is no, as such cure for depression. You need therapy for sure. And so I'm glad that they touched upon that. It wasn't just crime. It was, the personal aspect and
Yeah.
going into the psyche of a character as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, if that mental health angle was not taken into account in this documentary, I think then this would have been nothing different from how the media covered it. And I think this also,
Exactly.
the documentary also shed a bit of light on how poorly actually the media, the mainstream media of our country, covered this whole incident. I've seen a change, especially in the younger generation. This is one of the good things of social media, that people are now more vocal about these things, and they have started to take it a lot more seriously. I personally know a couple of friends who go to therapists, who take this sort of a thing very seriously, and they've addressed it, and they have also come out of it as a better human being, mentally and physically both. So I think. This is probably the, of course, whatever happened, and they whatever they could research and show, they did with all their honesty. But this mental health aspect thing of the documentary for me was the best part of the series, and
Yeah,
that's what,
for me as well.
yeah, that's what this is going to separate this docu series from other from documentaries coming from India. And you know, I always felt that documentaries is one such thing which was a perfect recipe for OTT platforms, or even before that, YouTube and Daily Motion and all these websites, because here the creator can have all the creative freedom in the world to uh, tell that particular story in the way they want. And I think this docu series, House of Secrets, is the step in the right direction. And let's expect more quality documentaries coming from India, because we have not seen India making a lot of good documentaries. In the recent times, we have seen like Bad Boys Billionaires, if you remember. Another very important part in this film was the registers that were found, and that, I think, that was the biggest sort of evidence in this whole conundrum, which through which they could connect a lot of dots, and the jigsaw puzzle could come near to complete, if not fully completed. So that makes me think of a lot of questions. For example, how, Lalit, for 11 years, how could one man have had such control over so many, 10 people, which included somebody like from as young as a 14-year-old to as old as an 80-year-old? So, do you feel there is an angle of patriarchy as well here? Because everyone was blindfoldedly, just following whatever his commands were?
Based on the narrative, yes. Based on the narrative that was shown, I mean, it would be a little again unfair for us to judge what was it not. But based on the narrative, it seemed so. It seemed that he was the patriarch, carrying on the legacy of his father. That was there. That angle was definitely there, explored. Yes. And so I would just want to just also touch upon a few other things that especially to the youngsters who are out there, that don't take anything on face value. It is necessary to question, even if it is your father or whoever it is, who anyone, just question, why are we doing it, how are we doing it, what, why, how, where. Those are the questions you need to ask, and not take anything at face value. That is, this again was a timely reminder as to what could happen if you just if there's blind faith, involved. If there is blind faith involved, you are probably digging your own grave. You need to rationalize, you need to ask those questions, whether it is the media, whether it is anybody. I mean, I don't think at the moment are we asking enough questions. I don't think we are, as a society also. So I mean, we should be asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, why do we automatically accept and obey to an order? Just because somebody elder to us has asked us to do, or even just if we go into the other angle or other perspective now, if there is some sort of religious angle attached to it, because we have seen that. Because if there is a religious angle, you can't say no, or you think twice before saying no to something. So I think those are the questions that this documentary definitely arises. Although I'm glad that they didn't really dig deep into the religious angle of the whole,
Mm.
the Bad Puja and the Havan which they did have just the night before this whole thing happened. Uh, so I think the tragedy should also have uh, ask questions and discussions surrounding the hidden dysfunctionality of seemingly normal families, but you don't know what's going on inside them. And
Yeah.
as you said, that these people looked like you and me. I mean, it was not as if they were outcast, or they were in the outskirts, or outsiders, so to say. They were right in the thick of it in the society. They had just the engagement ceremony a couple of weeks ago. They were doing dance practices, dance rehearsals. So I think that one question which they asked at the end of the documentary was whether Lalit was kind of worried that since the girl was going to another family now, this could actually hamper or dent the secrets that the family has been carrying for so long. Did you feel the same?
As per the narrative, that made sense also. But yeah, I tend to agree. As per the narrative, I'm strictly maintaining that as per the narrative, because we really don't know what the truth is, and probably we'll never know the exact truth also. But as per the narrative, yes, it was what it felt. That was probably the more rational reason that was given, which made sense as well.
And what did you feel of? See, a couple of incidents which really impacted his life was, first of all, that attack that happened on him when he was almost beaten to death and left to be burned down. Luckily, he survived from there, and of course, his father's death. So both of them coming at almost the same time, and that impacted him in such a way that he couldn't speak for 3 or 4 years. Did you think that was actually a case of PTSD, that he couldn't speak because of a mental trauma, or was it all acted out once again as other things? Was it a part of the narrative? Did you feel?
I I would tend to think that it might have been that post-traumatic stress disorder. It could have been that, because those were incidents that were potentially, one of them at least was life-threatening, and the other was if you're really close to that person and that person just passes away, so you get that shock as well. So I would want to believe that it was post-traumatic stress disorder, which brought us to the fact that the questions of mental health, which is what should be discussed today also. It should not be probably passed off as, even if this wasn't a main reason, I would say independently as well, probably topics on mental health and depression should actually be discussed. It shouldn't be like a hush hush, or as a society, I don't think we are, even encouraging, leave alone our children, encouraging each other also to discuss things. Probably, I don't know what, and it might be a global thing as well.
No,
uh,
no, more than global, I think it's a cultural thing. I mean,
it might be cultural, yes. Yeah, yeah, I
society,
tend to.
I've seen that we are programmed in such a way that we hide the abnormalities in our households, isn't it? I mean, there are a lot of things which are seen as taboo, which are not actually, and it can be anything as trivial as somebody's being divorced. Even that is sometimes not seen as a good thing. Forget about somebody going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. In the docu series as well, somebody pointed out ki we, if I'm not wrong, it's the neighbor who says that we should not take this lightly, because अपने यहाँ
Mhm.
पे ऐसा बोलते हैं कि कोई पागल है तभी वो वहाँ पे जाता है.
Hmm. Right.
Do you think they could have had a little bit more extensive research being done, or maybe they could have, for example, interviewed the fiance of that girl who just got engaged a few days before? That could have opened up a few more cans of worms, maybe.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think what we need to, as an audience, also realize that because this is a documentary and based on a true event, it would be difficult for the characters, I mean, the characters, I would say characters, but the real life characters that are there to actually come on camera and relive the incident as well. And to say that it wasn't well researched or would have, opened a new can, I don't know. I mean, that I feel that would be a little uh, unfair, I would say, because it. I mean, if it was a film, then probably we would be like, did it end well? Did it not? We could easily put our fingers on that, if it was web series or film. But because it is a true incident, I mean, it becomes that much more difficult and that much. So I think the way I look at a documentary is whether it was able to convey the intent that it had initially set out to convey.
So now talking about the technical part of the documentary, the direction and the screenplay and how they executed the whole thing. I think it was very engaging. The use of archival footage and some sequence were recreated. Testimonies by different experts, not just policemen, but also they had a couple of people from the media houses, the news reporters, and even their neighbors. And also, I think Leena Yadav did a very good job by uh, creating a very engaging screenplay, and you felt a part of
Hmm.
Santanagar Burari. I mean, just like a whole lot of people, that huge plethora of people, that crowd which was there on the morning of the incident itself. Watching the documentary, you felt like you were one of those crowds just standing there and witnessing this horrific incident that has just happened, not knowing what exactly the details are. So, what were your impressions on the way the series was executed by the filmmakers?
Oh, I think it was a pretty good narrative, right? I mean, they had a fine balance between what needed to be recreated and what they could show from the actual footage. So that was a really nice approach. Although, I mean, that should be the ideal approach as well when you're doing an investigative, so to say, documentary. Having said that, the thing that separated this documentary was the second and the third episode. I mean, that just took it to a new level, which was going about like a normal, so to say, an investigative thriller, as I said earlier, turned into a part horror, part psychological thriller, probably you can say at the end of it, with a basically also a solution that was there. Uh, I have probably okay psychological part I may have seen some other documentaries as well, but I did not see horror. I didn't see that coming, which is why I think even you and me, both of us, know many people who haven't slept well at night because of that part. It just left you speechless. Your jaws had just dropped at that point, and it was the horror element that was there because it was coupled with the thing that it was a true incident as well. I feel the horror incident, this it was atmospheric and it could evoke fear in any individual. It was much to do with the mind than to actually show any jump scares or anything, which many films are guilty of. It is more atmospheric that was there. The recreating of that, the notes, that diary, that was register that was there, and in that voiceover, my god, that would give you chills. Please do not watch this documentary at night. Please do not. And if you are not in the right state of mind, please skip this documentary. I wouldn't recommend this documentary to anyone who is a little mentally weak. When I say mentally weak, I mean like who actually needs help. Please do not engage in this documentary. Just stay away from this,
And
because this requires a very strong viewing.
another good thing about this documentary was, without ever showing the dead bodies or the complete the faces of these people, they were still able to excite the audience, put them in this spine chilling experience. That was the USP of the film.
At the same time, the role of the media, I felt, and some of them that had come on cam, they were very vocal in saying that, uh, there was this competition, who's going to give the breaking news first. And that is the case generally with the media, which in turn spoils police investigation also. So that, I think, was one of the factors. I mean, the role of the media just should be to report. It should not be to cook up stories or to have media trials or anything of that sort. I mean, that is just not right. You just need to report things.
Yeah, and that policeman, the SHO, he looked relatively upbeat right now during the shoot, but I'm sure when it happened in 2018 and when he had to actually deal with it, he would have been shitting bricks at that point of time. I mean,
Totally.
if Arvind Kejriwal had to come, the CM of Delhi had to come on the morning of incident, you could just imagine the magnitude of the incident and how it would have impacted so many lives altogether. Before we end this, what does your gut feel tell you? Was it a case of mass suicide or was it a case of accidental death, as they said in the end? What's your gut feeling?
I feel it would be accidental death. I mean, it's again a conjecture, but I would like to believe in that because it also gives us an opportunity to talk about mental health, as we said earlier. Mental health needs to be discussed as much as possible. So, if that narrative can bring about a topic of discussion, then I think it would be, a fair assumption that it can be an accidental death. Unfortunately, it's a very horrific incident and very unfortunate. But it is what it is, and I think we can just learn from it. Just to talk about mental health and question the beliefs and not have blind faith. These are the two takeaways, probably, besides the media one that I had said, that we can take from this series.
Yeah, and I think that's the best part of this documentary was that the director stayed away from sensationalism. They could have
Yeah,
easily sensationalized it just like the news channels, but they stuck to the material
it's
available
very
in
balanced
public.
narrative.
Yeah, I mean, they just stuck to whatever was available in public domain, but they looked at it with a very fresh perspective, with a sensitive pair of eyes. That's why the mental health angle came in. So I think that was it from us on House of Secrets. It's streaming on Netflix if you're not watched it yet. If you're a fan of documentaries, if you're a sucker for true crime, this one is for you. This and believe me, these kind of stories and documentaries come very, very rare from India. So go watch it. And as Farad said before, if you are a weak-hearted person, if you don't have the appetite for this, then it's better you avoid this one. So thank you for watching Cinema Hall, another podcast. This was Farad and me. Go to Popcorn Reviews if you want to check out the detailed review for this, and hopefully we'll see you very soon next time. Keep subscribing, keep supporting in the comments, and like the video as well. It helps us with the algorithm of YouTube. And until next time, goodbye. Thank you.